I'm sorry I don't have song videos. I wrote a lot of songs, but then I played all of them in like 2 videos because I like playing a bunch of songs in a row. All I can do really is make stupid videos about me talking because I think it's fun, but I understand it's probably not as much fun because I'm a bad talker. I guess I had more things to say about Asperger's and kind of ideas about looking normal when you have Asperger's and what that means, I guess, like socially and politically. The first thing is the idea of a Manic Pixie Dream Girl, which is sort of like, it was invented at the Onion AV Club, my favorite website, and it's supposed to describe like a girl who's in a romantic comedy like Garden State, or I guess like Eternal Sunshine, and it's supposed to be a girl who's like super crazy but in a hot way, and everything she does that's crazy and weird just like makes the guy like her more because it like improves his mood. So I feel like before I even knew this term, like I obviously recognized it as a type because I've seen a movie before. So when I was about like 16 or 17 years old, I went through a really hard time and I realized that like just like the way I was living in the world wasn't working because I knew that I wasn't really normal and I knew there were a lot of things I couldn't do and I didn't know how to do them, and I just felt kind of ashamed that I couldn't do them, and I realized like I needed better methods for fitting into the world. And I'm also gay, and that's like what some of my problems came from. So sort of what I was going through was both kind of trying to figure out like what it really meant for me to be gay and whether it was possible for me to pretend that I wasn't gay, because it became clear to me why I might want to do that sometimes because I didn't want to be reduced to something, which is what people do, a lot. So I was trying to figure out about passing as straight, and then I was also trying to figure out as passing as like more normal socially, because it was kind of the combination of my two problems that made me completely like terrible at getting any friends when I was in high school. So in regards to the Asperger's, what I did was I kind of, without meaning to, adopted like a Manic Pixie Dream Girl persona, and like I needed it because I don't always have like the right reactions to things, and also sometimes like I just get really freaked out, like actions that I'm doing that seem very simple, like buying something, just like seem so detailed to me that I can't figure out what to do like from one moment to the next. So like when I was younger, whenever I was buying something and I was like waiting for it to get rung up, like I just didn't know what to do. Like I'd fidget, but then I was like, that might offend the person who's ringing me up because they might think I think they're taking a long time, and like I would just like really freaked out, and sometimes the person would be like, "Are you okay?" And I just feel bad. So finally I figured out that like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl approach to buying things is that you act really excited. So if you're buying like, I don't know, milk, you're like, "Milk! Oh man, thanks so much for this milk." So I realized that kind of like the whole Manic Pixie Dream Girl, really excited, really childlike kind of personality could be applied to a lot of situations I had trouble with, and like especially it was good at covering all my social issues. So like if it's hard for me to look like I'm normal and talk like I'm normal, I can like, it's pretty easy for me to try to talk in like a really high voice and sound really excited all the time. And that will be interpreted as like a personality type. And then also if I get really confused all the time, if I've already set it up that I'm this type of person, people are just like, "Oh, well, I guess she's just really stoned because she seems like somebody who would do that kind of thing," you know? So I've sort of figured out that it works pretty well. And it's kind of a personality type where people want to take care of you. And that way, if I have trouble with things, which I do, and need help, then like people are like, "Oh, like look at you, you need help." And they, want to take care of me. Which also is kind of a problem, I feel like, because it makes me feel like I have to be adorable and sweet in order for people to tolerate the fact that I have social problems. And that seems kind of unfair and upsetting to me. Like, if I know someone and I get angry with them or I'm not nice to them, even if they've been angry with me before, I end up feeling like the next time they see me in like a vulnerable position or just like doing anything that isn't normal, I feel like just so ashamed, like it was only okay while they thought that I was like this cute creature, and like once they found out like that I was also like not a nice person, like it can't be okay anymore, I guess. Like, what really bothers me is that I went through this really hard time where I realized that I had to be part of the world, and I put myself through all these like missions and methods to become like a more regular person and more successful, and you know, everything. And then the result of it is that people think I'm incredibly immature. And like, I need looking after in certain situations because I get lost and like I can't put words together so well. But then that doesn't mean that I'm like an emotionally weak person and that I like cry easily and I can't deal with like, I don't know, people being mean to me or pain or something, which I can deal with all that very well. So it's kind of frustrating. I feel like when sometimes people baby me when I don't want to be babied, I guess. I guess it's just complicated. I feel like I'm... Then like my completely unrelated thing was kind of when I was going through this whole period of trying to remake myself and like sort of figure out how to be a person instead of just kind of like existing and like being freaked out and not knowing how to do anything. I got this stuff where like whenever I look at a picture of myself, not as bad as it was before, but it still happens, I like just freak out, and like my reaction to the picture is either like I look like a man or I look like I'm retarded. And like the look like a man thing is obviously like, you know, a result of not wanting to look like I'm gay, and then like the not wanting to look retarded thing is obviously a result of me knowing that like socially and stuff I'm younger than other people and like people think I'm slow. So I just like, I mean, I would always feel terrible when I'd say I look like I'm retarded because I know there's nothing wrong with being retarded, and like in theory I knew that. But then something that was really powerful for me was like in the last 2 years I've started doing a lot of volunteer work with people who are mentally retarded, like especially adults who are severely mentally retarded. And like the concept of mental age, like I just said, doesn't really work, but like in some of the ways that these people act, like they're a lot like little kids. So I sort of figured out also that that's probably the kind of people that I want to work with professionally. But basically through working with people who are mentally retarded, it helped me feel better about times when I don't pass as a normal person or even like a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Like, it made me realize that like as much as people try to use like a bunch of rhetoric and pretend that like it's okay to abort your kid if your kid has Down syndrome, if you really like talk to a person who has Down syndrome, like there's nothing tragic about it. Like, they're a person, and they're usually a very nice person. And I'm gonna see if like you can look at a picture on my phone, but I feel like it's not gonna show up very well. I met this guy Mike who's like, I guess like moderately to severely retarded, and so he's like 30 years old and he's like, you know, he'll never have a job, like all the sad stuff, you know. This is a picture of him. I really, really miss him. I can't wait to go back to college and see him some more, because that's the area that he lives in. So, you know, he's like a child, you know, he's not going to have a job, he's probably not going to have a girlfriend, he can't really talk very well, I'm sure he can't read or write. So there's all of that stuff, and there's like, the thing that upset me so much when I was younger was that there was all this stuff I couldn't do, and I thought that said something about what kind of person I was. And then like when I got able to do things, I got so worried that I looked like a person who couldn't do things. And sort of what I learned through meeting people like Mike is that while I may not be mentally retarded, there really is nothing wrong with it, and there's absolutely nothing bad or tragic about the life of a person who can't accomplish certain things and doesn't have a certain IQ, because like Mike is really into the mailman, and when the mailman comes to his like workshop, he like freaks out and goes outside and he goes to see the mailman, and he goes like this. This is what he does when he's really excited. And he like goes up to the mailman and he like wants to hug him and he wants to carry all the magazines in. So he gets to carry the magazines in. He's like really excited. And then like he'll be reading the magazine, and then if he sees a picture of a baby, which is his favorite thing, he's so happy. One time I saw this baby and I made the baby's mom bring it over to meet Mike. I think it was like the best thing that ever happened to Mike in his life, as far as he considers. So, I just think he's such a joy,